What is going on, everybody? It is TripleCrown24 back with a new episode of the Sports Card Psychology Podcast, where we go inside the mind of the hobby, and it is good to be back. It has been a extended holiday break for me. I was planning on taking a couple weeks off from recording any new episodes during the holiday season. Just a lot of moving pieces that year, as I'm sure we're all aware. And boy, I got a lot more than I bargained for. Just dealing with a lot of issues in terms of my office space having been flooded due to a pipe burst and the aftermath resulting from that I'm still dealing with now. It's just some various issues with the various companies that, that I work with to operate my business. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster to start the new year, but I hope everyone is having a very strong start to their 2023. Overall, I would say mine has been good despite some of the hurdles that I've needed to jump over here to start things off. But hey, I'm here now, able to sit down and hopefully get back to my normal upload schedule, at least getting to these podcasts out a week. And I do appreciate you taking the time to join me on this podcast out there. It seems like there's more and more of them showing up, and choice is a good thing. Sometimes it can also be a bad thing, and that's my segue into today's topic. But in all seriousness, I do thank you for choosing to spend your time listening to this show today. And on the subject of choice, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. We literally have products out there that are called choice. Like there's Mosaic Choice, there's Prism Choice. And it got me thinking, are there too many choices in the hobby? I went around just kind of stupid around YouTube, seeing what I could find, see if anybody's uploaded anything that might be along the lines of this topic. And I watched two videos that immediately struck me as, okay, this is something that I really need to cover. First one here is by Neo Cards and Comics. I'll leave a link to both these videos I'm referencing in the description down below. So if you want to go check them out, I make sure to give these guys their due credit here on these videos. But he put out this video title here about Julio Rodriguez cards. And I found it interesting because he kind of explored the pros and cons of each of them out there and kind of figured out which Julio Rodriguez from 2022 is going to be the card to go after. Now, here you see it says rookie cards here, and there's going to be the people down there who want to call the prospect cards rookie cards. There are those out there who are of the belief that 2021 Bowman's best is his rookie card, and there are, none of the 22 cards are actual rookies. There's a lot of layers to it. And to me, the fact that the Bowman's best incident occurred and has had this lasting effect really resonates with how murky the waters are with what is going to be considered the card for Julio Rodriguez. Because if we're going by the rules, then it should be the 2021 Bowman's best. Or if you want to go by, his first card issued in any Topps or Bowman product, that I guess you could go towards his first Bowman stuff would be the most sought after, if that's your cup of tea. But some people like to have the rookies; they don't like to have the prospect stuff. So you could see where that may differ as well. And then people like to have the rookie shield for continuity's sake, but sometimes the rookie shield logos don't always imply congruently. And again, all those could be subjects for another video, but really I want to focus today on among the 2022 cards that are brought up in this video. There are a lot of choices, and Neo's video, I think, does a good job of kind of covering some of the ones that I hear about the most in terms of, I guess, what people speculate will be the top sought after Julio Rodriguez card. The one thing that really isn't mentioned in this video, or perhaps I'm the one who mistook it, was all of the different parallels for these cards out there as well. And I'm assuming in this video, when we're talking about his 2022 Topps Chrome logo fractor card, I don't know if there's any parallels with that. I would assume there is, since I guess it's technically a variation. I mean, there's parallels for everything, so why wouldn't there be parallels for this one? But are we just talking about the base version of the card, or are we also talking about all the parallels with it? And I would assume that we're going to be talking about all the parallels with these cards as well. So The superfractor of the extended short print is going to be more sought after than the superfractor version of the logo fractor, if that even exists. Now we've got superfractors on logo fractors of trying to double stack a triple stack. Boy, you wonder why people might be confused about all of this stuff is just because Top seems to have an endless supply of ideas and no problem sharing them with the world. So again, this is a really good video. I'd highly encourage you to go check this out because I think it's very relevant to today's discussion. And then there's this one as well, which really ties in. Along the same lines, here with Scotty B Cards, another great content creator. 101 rookie sports cards are broken. This is how many are made. And really, this could be applied to pretty much any sports card. It doesn't necessarily have to be just for players who are in their rookie seasons. There are a lot of one-of-ones out there. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this window if you're watching on the YouTube side of things and go ahead and pull up a checklist of a product that recently came out, and it is XR Football. Now, if you're not familiar with XR Football, it is a lower end product in terms of it's a earlier season release, although these days with Panini, most of the early season releases actually come out around the start of the postseason, it seems. But it's an earlier season release, and that is why I think it has the success that it does upon release, because if it was something that came out, say, around the same time as a National Treasures or a Contenders, it would probably be buried along the way because the quote-unquote better options would be available at a later point in time. But one of the big gimmicks with XR is that there are a lot of low-numbered autograph cards that you can pull out of the product. And here I am showing you, I guess this is, I mean, what really is a true RPA anymore, as I take a deep breath there. But I guess if you want to use that term, these are the true RPAs. They're actually triple swatches from 2022. And one of the first things you'll notice, if you haven't already noticed it, is the number of parallels. And also, there are more different one-of-ones than there are other types of parallels when looking at this checklist here. So, of course, we've got our standard ones. Okay, so these are what the standard ones are numbered to. It, I guess, depends on the rookie. The better ones, there's only 99 of them out there, whereas some of the guys kind of rounding out the checklist, there's 199 of them out there. So you see here, the reds, they're out of 75 or 49, blue out of 49.35. We got orange, white, gold, green, and then we get into the one-of-ones. So here you have the red. So I guess that is kind of just in line with the colors. But then you also have a glove one-of-one. So I'm guessing that is in the past they used to be like black parallels that have pieces of the glove in them. And then there's also the glove laundry tag. Now there is a different laundry tag that has the NFL Players Association logo. There's also one that has the Nike swoosh, and there's the one that has the NFL shield. I don't want to confuse anyone there because, you know, usually a laundry tag, that's pretty simple to know. There are 4 different laundry tags in this. And then you have the hat seam, which is different than your other headwear here with the helmet one-of-one. You have a nice jacket one-of-one here. We've got shoes and socks as well. We've got the Prime football that is different than some of the other football ones here. You have the one with the team logo. And, of course, you have the printing plates as well. Now, I'm not sure if there's a printing plate version for all of these here. I assume it's just of the actual card itself. So there's only 4 plates, one of each color for Kenny Pickett per se. But, boy, oh boy, there are a lot of one-of-ones just in this list. And, again, if we go back to the Scotty B video, his is more baseball-oriented. Here I'm giving you a football example. But it really doesn't matter which sport you're looking at because for the most part, a lot of them have the same kind of issue that manifests in different ways. And overall, there are just so many parallels out there that it is just, I mean, it's almost insane to think about how many parallels there have become out there. I'm going to go to a card really quickly here over on my COMC port, actually, and show you something else in terms of the number of parallels. So you see there's something with XR. Giving you another example, this is a Panini product as well. Prism, of course, kind of the flagship product here for basketball and football. Here's a Scotty Barnes Ice Prism that I have pulled up. I'm not really focusing too much on this particular parallel as opposed to all of the parallels out there. So you'll see on my left sidebar here, COMC has all of these listed out. So these are all the different Scotty Barnes parallels out there. And first of all, I have to scroll to even get them all. I have to scroll really just to get to the ones that are actually serial numbered. I don't know what that says, but you see here as we keep going down, more and more, there's pulsars, there's choices, there's shimmers, there's waves, there's fast breaks. Finally, we get down, there's 3 different one-of-ones as well here. I think that they might even be missing one. I don't know if they have a black no or fast break one-of-one. So maybe even that's missing there. But I mean, look how many parallels there are here. And this is no secret. I've done videos on parallel overload and parallel saturation before. In fact, I've even partially covered it on this podcast before as well. So none of this is really all that surprising, I would say. What I think is more surprising, though, is that a lot of these parallels have maintained the prices that they have. Scotty Barnes one there might not be as good of an example just because, as you can see, there's not as many of them available on COMC, and not a lot of people are usually selling them on that kind of platform. You'll see more of them for sale on eBay if they're for sale at all. But with so many of them, it's even hard to, I guess, generate a search that would be all-encompassing to really get a good, diverse selection of all of them out there. But if we go over, I'm going to pull something up here on the fly. So apologies if you're just listening to this on podcast. You probably won't be able to see what I am doing. But what I am about to do is to show you on a different site, trading card database, just how many products are out there. So we looked at the different parallels within one product, both for XR football and Prism basketball. But now I want to take it a step further and expand that out over all of the different products that are available. And for that, I'm going to go to Trading Card Database. It's a good resource for a lot of checklists out there. And we go to baseball here. I'm going to pull up sets. And again, I'll try to narrate this as best as possible for those of you who are just listening on podcast form, but feel free to follow along for those on YouTube. Here we go, 2022 card releases. And I know that my little avatar here, I can't move it, but it is blocking part of this. In fact, let me just, there we go. I'll take myself out of frame here. But here are all of the different products out there. Boy, oh boy. Now, some of these are like online exclusives. Some of them are smaller ones, but we have some non-MLB ones here. So there's different leagues represented as well. I mean, there's some minor leagues of choice. So they're the team issue ones. Here we get to the on-demand. These are just bonus sets here. But really look at all of these different products. So if you think about this, there are all of these products now. And if I go back to, let's say, let's just turn it back 10 years to 2012. Okay. There's still a lot of products here, but this list is significantly shorter than what it was. Let me go even to 2002. Okay. A little bit longer, actually quite a bit longer here, but we have multiple factors here. As above, you really just see tops, and then there are some of the Panini products out there as well. So what is my point with all this? Well, think about this. If you look at all those different parallels, now not all of these are going to have the same expansive checklist. Not all these products are as popular where they go as deep, but a lot of them are adding parallels every single year, meaning that there are more and more and more choices out there. So what is the positives and negatives of that? Well, there's pretty much something for everyone out there. And I would argue that if you can't find anything out there for you that's being put out today, then maybe you need to try to look a little bit harder, or maybe you're just not interested in modern cards, which, hey, that's the case, then all the power to you on that. But it's almost to the point now where there are too many choices. And in fact, in psychology, there is actually a term for that. It's not something that's too complex or anything. I'm actually going to pull up an article here that has a chart that I want to use. and it is something that is called Overchoice. This is from choicehacking.com, so credit to them for the little graph here. This was the one that I felt best illustrated my point. It's actually surprisingly hard to find a Overchoice graphic, believe it or not. But for those who are listening on podcasts, basically what it is it's uh, a right angle almost where happiness peaks when there are some choices, but not too many choices. And usually after that peak, as there become more and more choices, the happiness of the consumer starts to decline from there. So there's also models where it is a inverse parabola or upside down. I guess it would be a right side up U shape where happiness is going to start to trail off at a certain point once you get to the peak there. So I guess it would be an upside down U. It's my first episode back. Got to cut me some slack. All right. And got to get the brain moving. But the point being is that the happiness of the customer, people like to have choices. If it was like it was, I think, I don't know, let's just turn back the clock 50 years and say that it was 1973 again, where Topps is really the only game in town, Topps flagship, that being for baseball card releases. There's one set that's released. And for some people, they really like the simplicity of it. I don't know if we could ever go back to that. I just think that in this day and age that people really love all the different offerings that are out there. Me too. I would personally kind of like it was in 2012 or 2002. Like I like having choices. I don't like just having one set because there's a lot of different things that these companies have innovated over the years, and you need more than one set to showcase them. That's just my opinion on it, but I'm sure that there are those out there who would differ. But what happens is at a certain point, you start to get too many choices. And this was something that I started feeling towards the end of my super collecting days, was a sense of burnout, a sense of not being able to keep up. And I had this conversation with my good friend Eric, those back pages, probably a week or two ago, where I was talking about just having a difficult time keeping up. And this is my job. Like I do cards full time for a living. It is beneficial to me to know kind of the ins and outs and know what is hot, what is not, and what's coming out, the new stuff that's coming out, keep up with the old stuff that's been out. And in terms of the stuff coming out, it has been very difficult to keep up with, especially with all the different new parallels out there and trying to identify what any given parallel might be. And this also then extends to the secondary market, right? So you only buy the cards that you want or the sealed products that you want. And for some products, it's going to be more popular than others. You know, more people are going to be interested probably in Prism football than they would be for XR football. There are definitely those who probably prefer XR over Prism, but generally speaking, Prism's the more popular product. Now, looking at the singles of these cards, is you're going to have to make some decisions along the way. If I go back here over to Scotty Barnes cards here. 1 second. Again, first episode back, a little rusty on some of the controls here. If I go through these, okay, let's say that I want to collect some of the Scotty Barnes 2021 Prism cards. Well, the good news is I have plenty of choices to choose from. The bad news is that now I get to choose which parallel or parallels from this am I going to go with. Do I want to go with something that is really simple? The silver, right? The silver is the oldest parallel in Prism. It's been around since the first release. It's a time-tested classic. People love their silver Prisms, but the complaint is that they're overproduced. There's no value in them, right? It's maybe they're slightly more valuable than the base, but because they're not numbered, we don't know exactly how many of them are out there. So, all right, we'll step away from the silver Prisms and we'll step away from these because I don't want anything that's numbered. All right. So I've eliminated about half of the parallel list here, but you can still see, I mean, I can't even fit just the numbered parallels on my screen. I'm like one line away from getting them all in there. And perhaps some of these ones out of 10 and such are out of my price range. So let's just stick it to the out of 15 to out of 299. Well, there's still at least a dozen parallels here for me to choose from. So which one should I really go with? Which of these do I think has the best chance to hold its value? And the thing is that a lot of these cards right now, for a player like Scotty Barnes, who is one of the most, if not the most sought after rookie in the 2021 class, I would argue he's not, but some may disagree with me there. The problem is that there is only so much money to go around. And a lot of these parallels all command a bit of a premium. You can't get any of these ones for cheap. Some are definitely cheaper than others. That is a given. But there is only so much money to go around, especially when you consider that these aren't the only Scotty Barnes that are out there. So with so many different products out there and so many different parallel options, keeping in mind that this is just the base. We haven't even gotten into like inserts and all that, or autographs or memorabilia cards. There's plenty of those too. I'm just looking at like the base cards in the set right now. Uh, which ones am I going to choose if I want to collect Scotty Barnes cards? And that's really where we go back to the overchoice problem, is that it can be overwhelming and nobody wants to make a bad decision. They don't want to buy the card that isn't going to be as valuable as another card that they could have bought that has a better chance of holding its value. Even if you're someone who is, you claim that you're not financially driven at all by the hobby, nobody still likes to make the quote unquote bad buy. And that's where this line of choices comes in. One of the things that it just so happened to cut off at on this article here about the choice overload or the overchoice effect is this line right here. These people would rather make an okay decision than a perfect decision. The satisfiers as a type of person out there who interacts with the overchoice model. So there's the satisfiers and the maximizers, according to this. I haven't really read through this part. I was mostly on this article just for the graphic, but just showing you a preview of this here is that, so there are going to be those out there basically who want to make an okay decision. So maybe looking through that list of parallels, you're not exactly sure which one you think is the best one, best bang for your buck, but you're going to pick from a list of ones that you have some confidence in. Whereas if you have the maximizers, they want to be able to get the best possible bang for their buck. They're going to choose the best card that they can get from that list. And I definitely think it is much more challenging in the hobby for the latter compared to the former, just because there are so many choices out there that to be able to examine them all, by the time that you would be to finish doing that, the prices had probably changed and you would have to go ahead and re-examine all of those choices again. And not only are there all those choices, there are a lot of factors that go into all of those choices as well when we're trying to make those decisions. So I brought up Prism as an example with the Scotty Barnes cards. And the reason that I brought up Prism is because it is kind of considered the flagship brand for both NBA and NFL products. So that would lead you to believe that it has a bit more prestige to it, that people kind of circle their calendars when Prism is released. If they're going to go after, start a new player collection, or they're targeting cards of a specific player, that might be one of the first places they look. Maybe you're more of an optic person. Maybe you're more of a select person. Mosaic has definitely increased in popularity up there. I would say in terms of the RPAs, the rookie patch autographs, national treasures, the quote unquote true RPA is the king of the castle for both football and basketball. Baseball is kind of up for debate. I would say Dynasty is probably the closest thing we have to that. But then you could also consider maybe a flawless in terms of NBA or NFL cards out there. But there are also secondary options as well, because not everybody can afford to go after those really high-end cards from the Prism and NT releases, especially with expensive hobby prices are. So once you start to get into those tier 2 products that might be a bit more affordable, and thus the singles might be a bit more affordable as well, kind of the waters start to get a bit more murky. Is this a product that has a good prestige to it? Is it a product that typically holds its resale value well later on down the line? Is this like other cards I may have in my collection? It would be kind of heartbreaking if you started collecting a certain set that was released for 4 or 5 years, and then all of a sudden it gets swept out from under you because Panini decides, oh, this is going to be a Chronicles release now instead of making it its own standalone release, and therefore maybe some of the things that you liked about it gets cut. So when you kind of start to stray away, I guess, from the beaten path, if you will, from the bread and butter brands out there, it becomes more and more murky in terms of what is actually a good buy, a good bang for your buck, other than just, what do you like? Does it appeal to you? And I think this has been a big cause for fatigue out there. And it's also why I think that we still haven't hit the bottom of the sports card market, because based on the PSA returns that I see out there and just going to shows and seeing a lot of these cards out there are still so many low pop cards, just in terms of maybe that they're serial numbered to a relatively low number, or there's just not that many of them out there for any specific grade. The number of cards that I see out there that are actually selling for some of the prices that they are, just to me, still isn't sustainable, because the market cap on some of these players, given how many of these cards are out there, would lead you to believe that they need to have immense popularity over a long period of time in order to sustain those prices. Even if you go back a couple of years to some of the guys who came out in 2018 and 2019, there are still a lot of different options for those guys out there. And as time has gone on, there's become more and more and more. So, I mean, there's a significantly higher number of options out there for, say, someone like Julio Rodriguez compared to a Ronald Acuna Jr., or say, once 2022 NBA products finally come out, a Paulo Banchero compared to a Trae Young, in terms of those talents who came into the league 4 or 5 years ago. There are just so many newer options out there that even just sticking within the lines of continuity from what has been popular over the last 5 years might not even be enough of a parameter to narrow it down for one person to determine how they want to collect. And this is, again, coming from the perspective of a super collector who kind of got burned out towards the end and was really kind of losing the passion. As I said, I had a conversation with my friend Eric where I basically told him that there are too many to keep up with, and if I was a super collector still today, I think I really would not enjoy it, given how many different parallels of Miguel Cabrera that I would have felt like I needed to track down to keep up with my collection. And really, at some point, I think at my peak I had 50 different one of ones, but go back to the Scotty B video, really which one of ones are the more sought after ones. For me, I always coveted my super fractors more, but I had super fractors from 6 or 7 different brands, I feel, or I guess technically gold vinyls if you consider the Panini brands in there. So which of those was the more relevant one in terms of, I guess, desirability long-term in the hobby and even present day in the hobby? One of the things that is really difficult to do is to predict future trends. So what might be popular now may not be as popular 10, 20 years from now. Perhaps, I guess, with the Fanatics reshuffle coming up as well, some of the brands that are popular now, say that Fanatics chose to go with Topps Chrome only rather than any of the Prism brands. Well, that would probably significantly damage the legacy of Prism going forward. Now, I mean, Prism was going to be the only game in town there for that window of time, and I'm sure those cards would still probably be fine, but it may lead to some people kind of shying away from it, especially as more time goes on and any kind of given brand becomes more and more forgotten. I think that is a very significant concern that I personally have, especially looking at some of the cards out there, given the sheer number of products, the sheer number of parallels, and the sheer number of options. There is only so much hobby money to go around, and there's more players than ever, more teams than ever, more products than ever, more different types of cards than ever. There's just more cards than ever. And this isn't my Junk Wax Era 2.0 doomsday speech. I don't really like to partake in those kind of discussions there. It's more so a general reflection of the market, is that the overchoice problem eventually something will have to give. And I think you're going to see that a lot of these cards right now that are being advertised as rare or low pop might not actually be as rare as we think. And I've gone over rarity in a video, or a podcast episode, I should say, in a previous episode. But to me, the rarity factor is going to be one that we're really going to have to look in the mirror here in a couple of years to determine what is actually rare. And a lot of that is probably going to be determined by what is sought after. And when there becomes too many choices, people try to usually stick to the bread and butter. People are going to go back to the basics. Now, what will those cards be? I think it's kind of up to your own conjecture. You'll have to answer that one for yourself. But I would love to hear what you think that may be in the comment section down below on YouTube, or you can reach out via any of the platforms I'm on, if listening on podcast form. But that is it for today's discussion on overchoice and why I think it is detrimental to the hobby. I hope that you enjoyed my first episode back. Hopefully we'll be back on Tuesday with another topic. Of course, always interested in getting feedback on the episodes, as well as hearing topics you'd like to see discussed in the future. Would greatly appreciate those in the comments section, or wherever you may find me out there on the internet. Till next time, thank you for listening. Take care, stay safe, be kind.